Hello, everybody, and you're all very welcome to our talk today on the role of play in developing healthy, happy children. And I just want to thank Healthy Ireland, the Healthy Ireland Initiative, and Fingal Libraries for having us back for this lovely talk with the lovely Melissa. Melissa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Linda. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Moore, and I am an accredited play therapist based in Deleakin, County Meath. So, my job entails working with children from the age of 3 right up into the teenage years who may have difficulties with their emotions or with their behaviours or with both. Um, and I suppose I work with the parents alongside that as well. So, I would give parents lots of support and tips and tools to be implemented in a home whilst the child is here with me. Separate from that, I suppose, and more frequently in this lockdown. So I've been doing lots of parenting support with parents who may not have necessarily been in touch with the other child, may not be in therapy with me, but just parents are struggling at the moment. And they just might need support for a while. So I've been doing a lot of that work as well on Zoom. And I suppose I do an awful lot of workshops with teachers, with schools, with preschools, with girl guides, soccer clubs, all that, those type of groups, on different sorts of topics. And I'm also doing, since March of last year, I'm doing lots of online workshops with different businesses who are trying to support the well-being of their staff. And in turn, I suppose at the moment that's around parents and supporting parents with different topics going at home that are happening at home. So it might be homeschooling, or it might be managing anxiety in our children. So different topics like that. I'm also a mum of 3, and I've been working in this line of work for the last 25 years. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thanks, Melissa. And yeah, I'm Linda Brannock, also a mum with 4 children. We're right in the throes of it, the two of us, as well as trying to keep ourselves mentally and psychologically and emotionally well. You'd think we'd know it inside out, but no, we're human too. And that's what I love about these chats, is that it's always a healthy reminder of, I always find something that I could improve on. And it's always a lovely reminder that we're all, we are all going through it and nobody is perfect. So a bit about my background: I am working in the field of counselling and psychotherapy for 20 years. I'm IACP accredited. I work with couples, individuals and groups in therapeutic and corporate spaces. And more recently, in the last year or so, I've been running a lot of online workshops supporting employers in supporting their teams, either their employees, their staff, the general staff, or their management teams, around getting to grips with all the challenges that COVID are bringing. So whether that's life work balance, working from home, putting structures and boundaries in place, supporting, the team leaders who have to check in with their teams every week and they don't know how to support them without getting burnt out themselves. Empathy, dignity and respect, all the kind of things that I would have been doing before, but it's on a whole different scale now. And delighted to be working with really progressive companies in bringing that to them. And I'm delighted to have been invited by Fingal Libraries and in association with Healthy Ireland to have this chat and really talk about, the importance of play, the role of play in developing healthy and happy children. We all think we know what play is, oh yeah, play, toys. That's all I think of, but it was lovely to hear you the other day on the radio talking about it, and that, the meaning of it and what it's all about. But a lot of parents, like myself, will say that they do understand that it's important, but when they're trying to remember, God, what did I play when I was a child, they go blank, or what their parents did with them. What would you say to people like that, and how they can play better or let their children play better? What would you say to them, Melissa?
I suppose the first thing to say, Linda, is play is one of those things. It's like getting up and eating your breakfast. It's one of those things that's like, it's a habit, and we don't pay as adults a whole lot of attention to it sometimes. And I had visions of coming on today, and parents on the other end going, "Play? What you talking about? Like that's something that they have to stop and think about." But actually, if you actually look at your day from the time you get up, I'm not talking about sitting down and pulling out a board game with your child every day. That's play, obviously. But once you're having a playful, fun interaction with your child, it could be for 2 minutes during the day, that's play. So, you know, typical things like, and you're right, it is really hard to go back and kind of think of. And actually, I'm struggling even here now. Like, I can remember being at the beach and playing ball or whatever, being up at the football pitch, you know, with my dad. But they're kind of standout moments. I can't really think of the normal day-to-day stuff. I'm sure it happened, like, but I suppose, you know, from the time of conception, you're playing with your child. So, you know, you're talking to your belly. You're talking to her, oh, I felt that. Oh, how are you? You know, so all of that is play. They're all playful moments. And then, you know, when your baby it comes into the world, you know, when you're sitting on the couch and you have them snuggled in your arms and you're looking down at them, you might be rubbing their cheek, or, you know, you might be, you know, this kind of thing with your baby. All of that is play, but I suppose it's not stuff that we think about sometimes, that it's playful, you know, and typical things I suppose you would have played with babies is, boo, hide and seek with the people, boo with the hands over your eyes, or, you know, the ring a rosy in the palm of the hand, or the, you know, gooing and gown with your child. Like, they're ideal moments, and they could be split seconds. You know, it's not time investment, it's the quality of the interaction that you have with your child in that moment, as opposed to, you know, you might sit down and have 20 minutes and not have one giggle, you know, so that's pointless, you know. So it's about the quality of the interaction. And I suppose for toddlers and preschoolers, we can probably all kind of come up with scenarios much quicker for those ones where you're playing dollies, or you might be, you know, sitting down, you might be the customer in the shop, or you might be the customer in the restaurant, and they're role playing. I suppose the teens, for me, even when I was thinking about it this morning, and I have teens in the house, so I should be able to come up with this one, but I suppose it's they're less inclined to sit down and do those things with you. But it's things like, you know, the TikTok dances are the big one in our house at the moment, and have been actually since the start of the lockdown. I suppose they were probably only one of the things you could do, you know, when you were out in the back garden. I remember being out in the back garden last year doing them, and just making a fool of yourself. So, but that's all play, and your teens will love that. You know, it's making the buns with them. It's showing interest in whatever game they're playing on their Xbox, and can I have that other controller? Can we sit and do this? You know, and being the silly mom or the silly dad or the silly guardian or whoever it is that's in the house that day with them. And you know what? The one that I love is the what if games. So, you know, what if you had a choice to do? You know, what if you won the lotto? What would you buy? You know, so these lots of different scenarios. It's a great opportunity to have a play and have a playful scenario with them, but it's also a really good opportunity to kind of, I suppose, explore those maybe taboo subjects, or those nitty-gritty subjects, or, you know, there might be something about kind of social media that you want to kind of see what they're thinking, or, you know, the boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, or, you know, whatever's going on at that moment in time. It's a really kind of less obvious way of doing it, I suppose, if you've got a teen that you know that's just not going to open up to you. So there's lots and lots and lots of ways. It doesn't have to be sitting down now really planned. It can be that, in actual fact, that unscheduled, unstructured play is actually probably the best, where you get most out of it, you know, with your children. And I suppose, like, you know, do we spend much time sitting back and wondering about the benefits of play? Play is crucial for healthy development. I can't say, I'm a play therapist, so look, this is something I can talk about for hours on end. But you know, it goes back to the lessons that they're learning. You know, our children, certainly, you know, our younger children, don't have the words and the vocab to be able to tell us how they're feeling or what's going on inside their head, and particularly now, I suppose, when the world is turned upside down. So play is their language, and that is absolutely how they express. So look, we might talk and sit with a friend over a cup and have a chat and say, you know, this is bothering me, you know, what am I going to do? Kids don't have that capacity, so they sit down with their toys. And so I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute or so. But just in terms of the benefits of play, you know, they outride all the negatives. It doesn't have to be time consuming. So it's things like social skills. So it's, you know, turn taking, sharing, you know, winning and losing. So managing defeat. You know, it's problem solving, you know. So what happens if I make the wrong choice? Like, you know, am I going to lose out on something, or is it going to go my way? Or you know, creativity, God, there's loads and loads and loads. Creativity, and what else have we got?
I'm just thinking I'm remembering when and I didn't realize, like, I'm just listening to you there. Like, for me, I wouldn't have included engagement, connection, humor, just using humor sometimes, laughing at ourselves, not laughing at each other, but with each other, kind of making a joke of. And I know back when my little one's nearly 6 now, but a year or two ago, she would still been at the kind of tantrum stage, maybe in a supermarket or something like that. And one time she asked me to play with her, and we went to the shops in her game, and I was the little girl, so I had a tantrum and I did exactly what she did. And she was like, oh, you can't do that, whatever. But she didn't really have it afterwards. It was like she got to see how it's like to be, you know, trying to drag the child on the floor or whatever. And but we do use, and I didn't realize it till I'm listening to you now, we do use humor a lot. And again, in a very, like, and I wouldn't describe my husband as very into play, like he wouldn't sit down and play toys with them, but he'll throw them over his shoulder, or he'll you know, I don't know, tickle their ear and then go walking the other way and say Uncle Harry did it or whatever. There's just these silly things, I don't know where they came from with him, but they love it. It's that engagement piece, and it's the crack. And then he actually started, and he's not the therapist in the family, but he started that conversation at the dinner table, one good thing and one not so good thing about the day. Well, he said one bad thing because he's not a therapist. So, but like that, everybody got to say one thing that they were happy about and one thing that they weren't. We went through a phase of doing that for a long time.
And that's all play, Linda.
Yeah, I didn't realise.
No, but it's not the play that you automatically jump to, you know. And I suppose that's the point that I'm trying to get across. But like, kids learn things like leadership through play. They raise self-esteem. You know, if you're sitting with your child one-on-one, you know, and it's like, oh my God, she spent all this time with me. I'm really important.
Yeah.
So it's raising self-esteem. You know, it's concentration, even. You know, motor skills they're learning. You know, when you send your kid into Montessori or preschool, they're doing all that fine threading and you know, opening and closing the buttons and holding the pencil. And all of that is done through play. And I suppose if you think even just of like a colouring book and a few crayons.
And my little one's loving cutting paper now, cutting shapes and just cutting out. If she colours in a picture, she cuts it out afterwards. I don't know where she got it from, but I'm not going to stop her. But it's that thing that you just said something there a second ago. Struck me, that thing around, it's gone, it'll come back to me in a minute, but that thing around connection and engagement, isn't it?
Connection is huge. You know, kids don't care if you spend an hour playing with them or if you spend 10 minutes with you.
I know what I was going to say. It was just that whole thing, you know, during the day we're all together under one roof all day, every day. But are we really present? Like what you're talking about is actually being present and available fully to that person. And I've got 4 kids and I'm trying, but I know I'm not always succeeding, but that full presence as in, how are you right now? Or what will we, you know, it mightn't be like the younger ones. It's not how are you right now? It's what you want to do. Come on, I have a few minutes before I go back to work or whatever. And again, I wouldn't have valued that as play.
And it's our frame of mind, I suppose. And the connection piece, you know, it's better to spend 10 minutes of really quality connection, of fun, positivity with your child, rather than an hour of it where you're completely distracted and you're swiping through your emails or whatever. So what I challenge parents to do is, and I don't say it to do every day, but look, as many days as you possibly can. If you can do it every day, happy days. But at the moment, I know it's difficult when you're trying to work from home and do schoolwork and all that sort of jazz. If you can just allocate a couple of evenings, or, you know, as many days as you can, that even you allocate 10, 15, 20 minutes to sit and play with your children, but the phone is away, and actually say to them, I'm just going to put my phone away in the drawer now, or I'm going to switch it off, you know, so we have complete attention. TV is off, laptop is off or out of sight. So it's complete me time, it's complete child time. And the message, even before you get playing, the message that alone gives to your child is, oh my God, I'm so important. My mommy isn't looking at her phone. She doesn't care about work anymore because she's playing with me. She's having fun with me. And that just builds up the whole time, and it builds up children's self-esteem, their resilience, their self-worth. And obviously, as you know, they grow up, that strengthens. But if that's not to start it needs to be started kind of at a young age and built upon. Because otherwise, you know, if you start doing it kind of at 10, 11, you're actually just kind of trying to repair what hasn't happened.
For lost time,
make up for lost time. So, don't put yourself under too much pressure. Only commit to what you know you're going to be able to do. So it doesn't really matter what the content of the play is, as long as it's fun. And as long as it's just you and the child and nobody else. And if you've got 2 or 3 kids, you can do it with them all. It doesn't have to be one. It can be a family thing. And you're creating that bonding with all of your children, but also between your children. So from brother to sister, and they're learning all those different skills that they need for later on in life. And when I'm explaining play therapy to parents when they come in, and I'm talking about these are the things that are always worked on before you get to the reason of referral. You've got self-esteem, problem solving, social skills, decision making. They're just the basics, the foundation of what's happening, creativity, the concentration, all of that stuff are the basics of the skills that you're teaching your children to set them up for later on in life. So if you've got a 15, 16, 17-year-old going out into work, or they're going out to play in a sports team, and they've never experienced, having to take a turn, or they've never experienced losing a game. Can you imagine coming off the pitch after playing a game of soccer or Gaelic and have lost and never having that experience? What that does to them. So they're lifelong skills. And I think, Linda, as well, and you and I would have talked about this several times before on different talks, that piece of connection. And what I'm talking about is a time when you're building positive relationship and attachment with your child, that your child knows no matter what happens in the world, that you'll be there for them. So if they need to talk to you, they're coming. So you're setting that tone up forever. So when they're 14 or 15, or maybe one of their friends is going through something tough, or somebody's been really nasty to your little boy or girl or whatever, they know that they have that connection with you. So it's like the boiling peas, I say, on the back of the packet says it takes them 4 minutes to cook or whatever from frozen. But if your child comes in the middle of it, and you're in the middle of doing the dinner, and they want to have talk with you, which is maybe something really small to you, but it's something really big to them, and you're like, I'm just watching the peas, just wait, the moment is gone.
Yeah.
So as I say, so what if the peas are on for another 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Like, really, so what? Who cares? Like, they'll still be cooked. It's about meeting your child where they're at when they need it, so that bond continues, and that time for problem solving or for worries to come to you through play. Like, play is, so if you ever think of a scenario where you might be in the car and your kids might be in the back, and you mightn't have expected something to be said, but all of a sudden you're relaxed, I suppose, and they might say something to you about whatever was bothering them, or something that had happened in school on the way home. They're the moments that's creating the mood and the play moment as well. When you're relaxed to play, they're the moments where they're relaxed to open up to you. So
I'm listening to you, but even about the peas and all, that is really hard nowadays, because we are juggling, and we mightn't be able to put the meeting on hold that we have to go into Zoom on, or whatever it is. And it is a balancing act, but I'm reassured to hear you say that 15 minutes of proper present attention is better than half attention for hours anyway. So it's about really just trying to fit it in a concentrated way into the day.
It is, but even going back to, you're right, like when we're jumping on Zoom or whatever, it's really hard. But I think the piece is, it's even, if that happens, that you have to get onto a meeting and your child is coming to you with something, that you acknowledge it and you say, look, I know you're going to tell me something really important, but I just have to get on and do this meeting. As soon as it's off, I'm straight into you, and you can tell me everything. Is that okay? So you've heard your child. It's not that you're ignoring it and you're just missing how they're feeling or what they're bringing to you. You've acknowledged it for them, and I suppose that's the message. That's the underlying message that they need to get, is that they're valued and that they're heard. Right from a very young age. I suppose what I'd always say to you as well, that unstructured play. You might see the kids in the sitting room playing together or whatever. That's fab. That's where the best work happens.
I had that last week with the 9-year-old and the 5-year-old. I was going to a meeting online. My husband was going to a meeting online. We had the homework all set up for them to play. And all of a sudden they were playing in her room, playing with her toys, role play type toys, games. And I said, I'm not going to interrupt that. I let them do it, and we can do the schoolwork in a while or whatever. And we probably didn't get all the schoolwork done that day. But for me, like you said, I probably would have heard you say that before, the importance of just letting them tease that bit out and whatever was going on. And for the 9-year-old to be going in was huge for me, like, you know, and but yeah, it's kind of having that flexibility and the awareness, because sometimes I'm not always tuned in, you know, so it is always a balancing act, but it's reassuring to hear.
And I suppose, Linda, as well, we're all kind of, you know, this COVID thing, and is it ever going to go away? And you know, it's very easy to slip into that negative thinking. But those moments that you've just described may not have happened as frequently had we been outside of COVID, because we'd been going to school, or, you know, we'd been at work, or we were going to the sports club or dancing or whatever with them, you know. So I suppose they're the little things to kind of treasure and hold when we're having, you know, a rough day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know that another thing we used to do as a family, because we have two kind of secondary school and 2 primary school, and you know, we used to have a thing called quality time, where you'd see that one is getting less attention because it's such a juggle with 4 of them, and we would take one off for a hot chocolate, or, you know, for a game of bowling or something, and we'd ask them which parent did they want to go with. But it was to try and give them that 1-to-1, and it might just be, you know, 20 minutes in a coffee shop, or it might be bigger, like a bowling or a movie or whatever. But we can't do any of that obviously anymore. And my 5, nearly 6-year-old was saying, when can I have quality time? So on Sunday we just did makeup. I just let her do whatever she wanted out of my makeup, and I did whatever in her hair and all of that, and she put on her dress-up dress, and like, and again, it was only about 20 minutes, but she had my full attention. And I wouldn't have realized that, I wouldn't have valued it until you just said it there, you know, that those little things that I'm kind of like feeling bad then, because I wanted to clear out her wardrobe, and it, you know, all that, they should have been doing more with her, but that's enough sometimes.
That's it. That really is enough for them, you know, and it's the message behind it, I suppose. And then, you know, I know there's days when you don't want to mess in your house, and you don't want, you know, crayons everywhere and all that sort of stuff. And again, they're the times where you negotiate with your kids. You know, if you tidy up them really quickly, it means we get an extra 5 minutes to, you know, to play in the back garden or whatever it is. So you're getting them to buy into it, like a big sheet, you know, a black sack. Cut a black sack and pull it open and throw it down the ground, and then you just go tie it all up and bung it out the mess. You know, like there's a lot of solutions. And I suppose you know, if you have children that are getting frustrated at home, one of the really good things actually is, you know, out in the back garden. So, you know, playing football, anything kind of that your feet are hitting the ground really hard, or pressing your arms off the wall. Who can do many jumping jacks, or who's the fast, who can jump the most? Let's go on the trampoline, come on. And, you know, mommy or daddy,
get that exertion, getting the energy.
burn it off. You know, if you can't get out on the road, you know, you supplement it by doing something else. And I suppose messy play, I love messy play. And, you know, when I first trained, you know, my kids were small as a play therapist, and I was like, oh no, I really don't need this. Like, really don't need this mess. But I learned actually how to manage it. You know, I had visions of, you know, dirt and clay and Play-Doh all over the place and stuck to my floor and all the rest. But now I've got like a cat litter tray. So it's so big, and you can do all the messing you want as long as it's contained in the box. And that's learning about boundaries and rules as well. So typically, so some of the children I would work with, they love the shaving foam. So a cheap bottle of shaving foam out of Tesco's, we're squirting it in the tub, we're throwing in a, you know, a bit of whatever you have, a bit of pasta in on top of the shapes, or a bit of paint to colour it, or food dye. And you know, you're just in with your hands, and it's really messy.
Sensory.
Sensory. And the smell and all of that is really regulating, and it's really, really helpful for children. You know, and if you can imagine even just in the sink, getting the kids to wash the delf. You know, so their hands are in it again, or out gardening.
I have a mother-in-law who swears by that. You'd regularly come to collect the kids, and they'd have a chair up against the sink, and they'd have it backwards. It'd be safe that they couldn't push the chair over, and they'd be just playing with unbreakable like plastics and pots full of sudsy water, and they'd play for hours.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Just it gives their nervous system feeding that they need sometimes, but it's contained so that there's rules and boundaries around it. So they're also kind of, it's a double whammy. They're learning all about that as well. You know, and what happens if the sink is going to overflow? Well, what's going to happen with the water? Someone's going to slip, so that, you know, you have to clean it all up and all that sort of stuff. So there's loads of different things that you can do with play. It's just about kind of thinking outside the box, but massive benefits to it.
Yeah, and it sounds like good fun. Yeah. And was there anything else you wanted to say on that before we move to the next question? You were talking about
Um,
connection, you kind of.
yeah, maybe touch is
Oh
a
yeah.
real big one. The hard bear hug squeeze, and the snuggle up here beside me, and wait till I paint your toenails, or and rub your head, or plait your hair, hand massages. All of that is lovely. That's all attachment play. So that's all about the relationship, and creating a strong relationship with your child. But maybe there are things that you wouldn't automatically go to when you think of play.
And what about when they're teenage boys? How does that, how do you reconcile that when they get older? Yeah, the
Yeah.
touch and
Look,
the whole.
I have a nephew, and he'll kill me now. He's 18. And when he comes to our house, he loves just this
Oh yeah.
rubbing of the head. So there is
Yeah.
things that you can do, or they might like a back massage, or
Yeah.
rubbing the shoulders, or
Yeah.
but if you think if they come off the sports fields, I know yours play sports, Linda, and they're ever they're hurt.
Mm.
And you might bring them home and rub their legs, and tickle the ball at their feet, even at night time when they're sitting on the couch. So yeah, it's just about
They're a bit smelly now, but
it's
no,
just about
I know. And that's the thing, that they, like, they're gone so big, and that they look like they're nearly men, but they're so vulnerable and cuddly underneath, and it's trying to, that they're vulnerable underneath, and that they need it and they want it, but it's that harsh exterior, and it is a challenge, isn't it, to try and have that connection. I think it
absolutely.
is remembering that, even if they have that on the outside. For me, just reminding myself there's still that little boy inside, and to talk to them without babying them, but to kind of honor that vulnerability at the same time.
Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
an ongoing challenge. Yeah. So the next question then is more about, this is coming up a lot, where children are doing their active role play, and I know it's definitely happened in my house with LOLs, and all the big yellow signs around COVID, and children playing a lot and talking about death and COVID, and it can be very scary for parents to hear, 3, 4, 5-year-olds using words like that and talking about stuff that we haven't even got our heads around, and is very scary for us. And how, should parents worry when they see that happening with their children?
Absolutely not. It's the most healthiest natural thing in the world. And I know your heart skips a beat sometimes, or you feel the butterflies in your tummy when you see that thing, because you're instantly worried, or assuming that they're worried about something. So the first thing to do is to tune into how you're feeling. So acknowledge to yourself that you're anxious about COVID, or you're worried about something that might have happened, but don't automatically go to, okay, this is what my child is feeling because that's what they're playing. That's probably quite dangerous. And I would say, don't interrupt the play. Just sit back, be quiet, sit back, let it play out. I see those kind of things all the time. Pre and in the middle of, or post COVID, pre-COVID, before it. I'm getting
All
myself
mixed into one.
like a big pot. Yeah, so I would have seen that a lot before, and I still see it. And not necessarily related to COVID. It could be, a little child that is their parents have separated and they're moving from house to house, and you'd see that kind of stuff played out in 2 houses and 2 families. But yeah, definitely, I have seen Peppa Pig struck down by COVID, and I've seen teachers being sick, and I've seen, somebody dying. Or the doctor kit might come out, the medical kit, and the stethoscope and the temperature, the thermometer being checked. All of that is really, really natural. Again,
They did that in the Late Late Toy Show as well, actually, didn't they? Yeah, at Christmas.
yeah. It's back to, it's the language of our children. Our small children don't have the vocab and the words to constantly be telling you how they're feeling. They might say to Mommy, I'm feeling sad today, or Mommy, I'm feeling happy today, but it's not automatically something that they actually come and say to Mommy, stop for a minute, I need to tell you I'm feeling happy. It's usually something when you pick up on something, you say to them, are you okay? And they might say, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling sad. They don't even use the word upset, really. Sad or happy. Some of them might be able to identify angry, but this is how the play is, how they're processing all that's going on in the world around them. It is how they're figuring it out, managing it and coping with it.
Yeah.
And remember, they're problem solving. So by allowing them to play it out and see how it unfolds, you're allowing them to work through if it's anger or worry or whatever it is that's going on for them, you're allowing them to process and work through it. And when they're good and ready and they have done the job, they'll come out the other side, and that would probably move on. 9 times out of 10, you don't really see that play again. But it's just to be really cautious of it. And afterwards, I mean, you can always say to them afterwards, I saw you playing there. What happened with Peppa? What was going on with Peppa there? Was she okay? And again, it's that playful tone, Linda.
Yeah.
It's not that it's Peppa dead. It's the playfulness in your voice.
And actually, even what you just did there, it's an open question versus an assuming kind of closed question. So you said, what happened there? And they can take whatever. They might start talking about the big toe rather than the COVID and the death, rather than saying, is Peppa dead? Like you said, it's not a leading question, is it? It's more open.
No, exactly. And it always is an open question. And for all Peppa could be lying down there having a sleep. It's about clarifying all the time that it's non-directed, so it's not directed by you. There's no judgment from you, and it's a safe place for your kids. So if they play all that out, they will use that again and again and again in different scenarios.
So are you saying then, like, I really, and I learned that the hard way as well a few years ago, around kind of taking a step back and actually just watch from a distance, observe and see what's being played out. So is there any time where you would suggest, or have you any ideas around getting involved with that? Because I really hear the value of stepping back, but should we get involved in play in that way if they're processing something?
Well, I think you can judge the situation and your child and how they respond to it in that moment. And I often would say things to children here, and I might say something to them like, I wonder what's going on over there, or I wonder how Peppa's feeling, and it's all wondering, and I'm thinking maybe, so it's not like what or where or when. It's those open-ended questions are the best ones, because you've no idea what you're going to get back. And you can always say, oh, I wonder would it be okay for me to join in. But I would never. Yeah, I'd never jump into a child's play without being invited, ever. And I always sit back as a therapist, and I would have children saying to me, are you playing or what?
Yeah.
But I'm waiting for the invitation. I don't want somebody in my space as an adult unless I have asked them to be there.
Yeah.
And our children are little adults, and sometimes, and they have the same feelings and behaviors as we have. They just are presented differently. So I think we just kind of need to acknowledge that and just be aware of it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then there's times where you might have your structured play, like we talked about as well, where it's instigated by you and you have that 15 minutes. But there are you will see lots of these times where Peppa's getting ill with COVID, or teacher's not well.
So it might be tempting to jump in and go, okay, and then they all lived happily ever after, and taking away that and put, making our anxiety go at ease, and then that's becoming about us taking over rather than letting them. So a lot of it is around kind of stepping back, like, and I love the way you're saying they're small adults, because I say to my adults, we're just children who have a few years under our belt. It goes both ways, but we do sometimes forget that children are small humans. They're not monkeys that have to be tamed, or even though sometimes the chaos they make and leave behind can feel like it. And it's very child-centered and person-centered is the terms we use around, kind of letting the child lead and trusting our child, isn't it? It's really coming from that place of trust.
Yeah. It really is. And often it's much easier for children to play something out in the third person, so it's not seen as them. So like we would often use kind of puppets in the room or whatever, and if there was something really difficult going on for a child, they'd play it out through their puppet. So it's their puppet feeling this as opposed to them, but it's actually them. It's coming from them. And I suppose that's the beauty of the work that I do. It works so well because it's aimed at the language of the child.
Yeah.
And that's that's how good it is.
Sounds really empowering, actually, doesn't it? They'll feel $1 million after it. Like they'll feel like they can conquer the world after they've kind of fantasized about that or whatever.
It is, but they're coming up with the solutions to their problems, Linda, through their play. And where else could you learn that? In a safe, fun environment.
We forget. I don't think we value. I think I forget myself. You don't value, like you said, everything that you said at the start, the learning and the processing and the expression and all of the other kind of benefits from it, that we just see it as play, as kind of almost a filler in between time, but actually it's the time really, that really matters.
It's serious work. Like it really is serious work to children, and if you think about the child that is misbehaving, how many times have we used play to redirect that behavior? In many different ways. We use it all the time. I'll go out and kick a ball, or go up to your room, put on the music, or there's loads of different scenarios. And so I was talking about blowing bubbles, to help calm children down, and those sort of things. And the more, I suppose, one-to-one time that you spend with your child, it's awful. So if you have a child that is really acting up and really finding things difficult, it's usually the message that they're giving you is frustration or anger or worry. So by you spending that quality time with your child, be it 10 or 15 minutes, you're reducing that unwanted behavior, I suppose, over a longer period of time as well. So
you're not judging the child, you're separating the child from the behavior as well. You're kind of,
it's got benefits for the child, but it's got benefits for you as well, because it's making life easier,
which we all could do with right now.
Yeah.
Was there anything else, any other kind of messages you'd like to give before we finish up for parents?
I think really is to not to think it too much, not to overthink it, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. It's 2 minutes of your day of a laugh and a giggle with your child, and that's classed as play. But it's the quality of the time rather than the length of the time.
Yeah. And it's interesting because that is really, really synchronizes with what I've been kind of working on with clients lately, is when's the last time you had a good laugh? When's the last time you were silly and had a bit of fun? Because we're all kind of going around with our shoulders up here, tense and stressed out, and children are feeling it too. And it is about, you do feel amazing if you have, like, even, some of those videos, they'd warm your cockles, kind of the funny videos or whatever. And it's so important, and not artificially, but just to kind of release and let it out. And that's what our kids are doing, isn't it?
It is, but it's that feel-good factor as well, that belly ache from the laugh. They're all those feel-good hormones and are all being released for your kids when they're enjoying doing something with you.
So important. Well, as ever, Melissa, it's an absolute joy to listen to you and all your wisdom and all your tips and guidance. And I always, even though I am working the field, I always learn from you and get lovely reminders and reassurance to kind of permission to be human in our parenting. And I think that's really important. So thank you as ever. And thanks again to Fingal Libraries and to the Healthy Ireland Initiative for inviting us along again. And we hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Linda.